That's the zone for you. Come back with a swag, a miracle. Come back alive, success. Come back with a patrol bullet in your ass, good luck. And everything else? That's fate.
The first question that likely comes to mind when delving into this content is, why would anyone in their right mind enter the zone? Is it possible that earthly delights possess such an irresistible allure that we are willing to risk our lives and leave our loved ones behind for the mere chance of experiencing them? Are we truly prepared to extract artifacts from the zone, objects we do not understand and which could potentially decimate vast swaths of humanity? Are we willing to endure the consequences of genetic alterations and the mutilation of our offspring? Are we ready to risk aimlessly wandering through the desolate landscapes of the exclusion zone, zombified, our minds destroyed by the brain scorcher? Stalker, however, places little value on cheap moralizing or poetic rapture. The game faces life in all its tragedy. It does not shy away from the suffocating questions of personal anguish and disorientation, nor from the insignificance of the human race in the face of the relentless jaws of empirical reality. It understands the cost of existence and the paradoxes that fill each of our lives. It knows that many fathers and husbands will not return, and that the price of the role they played, however briefly, often negates those roles entirely. For a stalker to be a father, he must ensure his family's survival.
И как там мои? Что там у них? Знать бы.
Yet, to ensure survival, he must expose himself to all manner of risks, potentially losing his sanity or life in the process, thereby erasing his parental role altogether.
Еще немного и домой. Вот только найти дорогу.
For many, reality offers no choice between entering or avoiding the zone, only certain options once inside. Does this sound absurd? Let us return to Road to S.T.A.L.K.E.R mentioned in the video on Prince Arthas and Warcraft. Let us recall the broken backs and empty stairs lost in despair and squalor, which nonetheless constitute life. Let us remember that what adds an additional layer of darkness to this already grim view of existence is the fact that, thanks to those broken backs, our lives are blessed with the marvels of technology. At the foundation of the Industrial Revolution and our lives lie countless masses of workers and peasants, which in no way denies or diminishes the role of other social strata. Similarly, despite all the dangers, the expanses of the zone remain filled with countless actors whose motivations cannot simply be reduced to greed or blindness to consequences, whether for themselves, their loved ones, or the broader community. Thus, the game does not pass judgment on the character of those who have settled there. Instead, it observes their ambitions, reasons, thoughts, fears, and fates with complete neutrality. Stalkers, traders, doctors, bandits, and scientists are simply a fact, part of a complex ecosystem just like pseudo-dogs, boars, or chimeras. They are individuals making do with what they have, teaming up, killing, sharing, dying, creating, deceiving, dreaming, stealing, and grieving. Together, they weave the fabric of what we call humanity, blindly groping in the darkness, seeking a path forward on the relentless road of evolution, survival, and expansion. This abundance of actors is primary mechanism through which life operates. In the chaotic activity of the masses, in the struggle and jostling for better positions, in the ruthless clash of blocks of living matter that irresistibly expand and forcefully penetrate one another, individual capacities are pushed to their limits, and only the most capable rise to the top. Yet, even the most capable individual remains largely insignificant, reduced to the level of a guinea pig that life, metaphorically speaking, uses to test for favorable possibilities or paths forward. The actor we see as a hero is, to life, nothing more than a discarded cog used to probe for anomalies along the way. Individual fates may thus be tragic, thrilling, grim, or awe-inspiring, but the cumulative consequence of all these tests of possibility is the progress and expansion of life. The law of large numbers works inexorably, life multiplies boundlessly, and through countless trials finds its way forward. Yet, in our fascination with our own existence and our individualistic worldview, we lose sight of this. We construct narratives of courageous lives, of the hero, of the one, the first, the greatest. Finding meaning in such constructs, we fall into traps of our own making. That is why, at what appears to be the ultimate destination of the blind groping in the dark, the game presents a dazzling illusion that beckons and promises.
Вознагражден будет только один.
There can be only one. This is the message in which many find meaning, but it is also the bait that leads to their demise. We will return later to the question of this evolutionary march, but for now let us turn to the actors that populate the world of the zone. While most NPCs do not provide deeper insights into their individual motives, there are those who serve as illustrative examples. The first such character is Sidorovich, a trader who appears in both Shadow of Chernobyl and Clear Sky. He is a seasoned figure, one of the first to enter the zone, but who chose the role of a trader due to his physical condition and character. He deemed himself unfit for the combat required to penetrate deep into the zone, believing he would not last long. However, precisely because of this decision, he becomes a pivotal node in the intricate trading network that connects the outside world to the zone via intermediaries in the military and contacts among stalkers. His motivation, revealed right from the start, is tied to his ambition to establish a trade route to the center of the zone, which he views merely as an opportunity for lucrative ventures. Sidorovich does not attribute any mystique to the center, nor does he dwell on interpretations of its nature or the zone as a whole. He is a pragmatic man, driven by material gain, but an irreplaceable element in the chain that brings resources into the zone and takes them out. He supplies stalkers with weapons, medicine, uniforms, and other equipment, while also acting as a provider and benefactor for representatives of the outside world. Jewelers, doctors, security structures, and even tourists. Love him or hate him, he is an integral part of the zone's complex social fabric, dedicated not only to commerce but also to stabilizing relations between the military controlling the cordon and the stalkers dwelling on the zone's outskirts. His efforts contribute to an increase in the expected lifespan within an environment fraught with danger. Another intriguing individual is Bies, an experienced stalker who operates with his team in the area called Garbage. He entered the zone fleeing the law as he was wanted for murder and causing grievous bodily harm. Interestingly enough, his actions stemmed from a desire to avenge a friend who had been brutally beaten and hospitalized. Bies sees himself and his crew as a group of avengers or enforcers of justice, though of course no one officially acknowledges them as such. Interestingly, this stalker strives to maintain order primarily by fighting bandits, yet he refuses to align himself with duty due to their ties with Ukrainian authorities and his fear of one day waking up in prison. Although ruthless towards bandits, Bies tries to act fairly toward honest folk, insisting that his motivations lie within the realm of morality. He believes that, especially in the harsh conditions of the zone, one must behave as a human being, selflessly. Thus, a wanted criminal in the outside world, through his charisma, strength, and leadership skills, manages to organize the scattered individual capacities of stalkers unaffiliated with factions. He avoids grand narratives and adheres to the smallest common denominator, the fight against scum. In doing so, he forms a protective barrier against the murderers, thugs, and lowlifes that roam the zone, preying on loners in moments of vulnerability and robbing them of their hard-earned money and artifacts. Like Sidorovich, Bies contributes to increasing the life expectancy of those who value the lives and efforts of others, those who, to paraphrase, earn their bread by the sweat of their brow. Without delving into excessive detail, it is clear that this world is teeming with actors who have traversed different developmental paths, and their presence in the zone cannot simply be dismissed as a reflection of greed, madness, or something else. The very term stalker neither is nor can be a simple derogation. It refers to
desperate young men who, despite the grave risks, sneak into the zone and smuggle out whatever they find. It's quite the new career.
Although this might seem reckless to some, I would add that it's seemingly reckless because this quality is precisely what propels them forward, positioning them as the vanguard of humanity, clearing a path through uncharted and terrifying terrains, and paving the way for the rest of community to tread the path of survival more gradually. A clear parallel in our reality can be drawn with the fates of seafarers who, unaware of what lay ahead and often lacking even the conceptual framework to sketch the bounds of the possible, set out into the open sea. They were driven by the desire for discovery, the thirst for profit, or the need to escape the law. Just imagine the strength of the motivations that made them ready to battle storms, hunger, scurvy, scorching suns, disease, thirst, unknown beasts, freezing winters, or the risk of dismemberment during mutinies or combat. And now imagine enduring all this not in the 19th but in the 15th century, inspired by the visionary statement of someone who claims that the earth might not be flat after all, while you are armed with a conceptual framework that places a bottomless abyss at the edges of the terrestrial. This is therefore an extremely scalable profession where the range of possibilities stretches between the actor's death in the most excruciating circumstances and unimaginable gains, be they material, like wealth, intellectual, like discovery and knowledge, or judicial, like an escape from punishment to freedom. It is truly difficult to fathom this. Now the zone amplifies this scale to the extreme, introducing the notion that an actor's death is no longer the worst possible outcome. Instead, it is the potential destruction of humanity as a whole, while the best-case scenario envisions an indescribable flourishing of life and understanding. If we turn again to the book, we will illuminate two important questions aligned with the previously mentioned themes of meaning and understanding. These are the questions of alienation, which can also serve as an element explaining the motivation described in the example of the sailors, and the question of the relationship between empiricism and insight. To illustrate the first, we can turn to a conversation between Aloysius McNaugh, an agent of the Bureau of Immigration, and Frederick Schuchart, a stalker. McNaugh works on evacuating people from Harmont, a city near which the zone has appeared, and he cannot comprehend why anyone would remain in such a place. Schuchart, known for his fiery temperament, has little patience for do-gooders, and in his passionate response he combines two perspectives. Although he delivers both with equal fervor, his reflection on his own feelings reveals that the first answer is not actually a result of his own thoughts and beliefs, but rather the optimism of his colleague Kirill.
Mr. Aloysius McNaught, I say, you are absolutely right. Our little town is a hole. Always was and always will be. Except right now, I say, it's a hole into the future. And the stuff we fish out of this hole will change your whole stinking world. Life will be different, the way it should be, and no one will want for anything. That's our hole for you. There's knowledge pouring through this hole. And when we figure it out, we'll make everyone rich, and we'll fly to the stars, and we'll go wherever we want. That's the kind of hole we have here.
It seems to me that the echo of this passage is reflected in the game, among others, in the character of Professor Kruglov, who shares an enthusiasm for the opportunities the zone offers, even though he is fully aware of its dangers. Precisely because of such a view of the zone, Kruglov harbors hostility toward both duty and freedom. Turning back, we see that, on the other hand, what Frederick truly believes and feels is encapsulated in the following passage.
And you know the amazing thing? I'm telling him this, and I completely believe in what I'm saying. And our zone, the evil bitch, the murderess, is at that moment 100 times dearer to me than all their Europes and Africas. And I'm not even drunk yet. I simply imagine for a moment how I'd come home, strung out after work in a herd of like-minded drones. How I'd get squashed on all sides in their subway. How I'd become jaded and weary of life.
Another confirmation of the sincerity of these thoughts comes at the very end of the novel, where the following reflections rush through his mind.
Man is born in order to think. There he is, Kirill, finally. except that I don't believe that. I've never believed it, and I still don't believe it. And what man is born for? I have no idea. He's born, that's all. Scrapes by as best he can. Let us all be healthy, and let them all go to hell. Who's us? Who's them? I don't understand a thing. If I'm happy, Burbridge is unhappy. If Burbridge is happy, Four Eyes is unhappy. If Raspy is happy, everyone else is unhappy, and Raspy himself is unhappy, except he, the idiot, imagines that he'll be able to wriggle out of it somehow. My lord, it's a mess. My entire life I've been at war with Captain Quarterblad, and his whole life he's been at war with Raspy, and all he's ever wanted from me, the blockhead, was one thing, that I stop being a stalker. But how do I stop being a stalker when I have a family to feed? Get a job, and I don't want to work for you. Your work makes me want to puke, you understand. If a man has a job, then he's always working for someone else. He's a slave, nothing more. And I've always wanted to be my own boss, my own man, so that I don't have to give a damn about anyone else, about their gloom and their boredom.
These two distinct answers reflect what accompanies Roderick throughout the entire novel: the tentative optimism of others and the sense of alienation or meaningless he personally wrestles with. This optimism is embodied in the novel by the scientist Kirill and the stalker Arthur. For Kirill, it stems from his enthusiastic curiosity about the possibilities that a living experiment like the Zone offers, while for Arthur it arises from the uncorrupted spirit of a young man eager for positive change for everyone, though still too inexperienced to grasp the naivety and banality of his worldview. Although Roderick has long since been disillusioned with the world, he nonetheless develops a certain sympathy for both. However, in both cases, the journey to seek artifacts ends in death, bringing Red back to grim reality and solidifying his animosity toward optimism. Yet, as we see throughout the rest of the novel, whose narrative spans significant time intervals, even though death and loss remain constants, humanity continues to produce optimists, and life, through trial and error, finds a way. By the end of the book, we learn that the process of robotizing the stalker profession is well underway. This development ties into another constant, the sense of alienation, emptiness, despair, and meaninglessness. Those fortunate enough to have lived long enough now have the opportunity to ponder the nature of such a fate, reflecting on past struggles and the deaths of friends consumed by longing, or the question, couldn't the robotization have come sooner so that the sorrow endured would be just a bad dream and their friends could once again sit by the campfire? But then again, if it had been so, if their work had been robotized earlier, what would they have lived on?